Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. Her silent howl. Episode 2. I lost control of Atlas when he saw Sandra charging Celeste. She still looked so fragile in her hospital gown. But the surprising part was how she stood up to Atlas and more, how she managed to soothe him into giving me back control. It's not like Atlas was some vicious beast with a temper, he was generally fairly in control, but the bond screamed at both of us to protect this magnificent fragile creature in front of us. We didn't expect her to stand tall when Atlas threatened the guard that allowed Sandra to get so close. She didn't pull away when Atlas crushed her to our chest, inhaling her delicious scent like a drug. Mate is already defending pack. Mate is already acting like a Luna. She is stronger than she looks, he said as he gave me back control. I still kind of want to break his bones. I just smiled at his words as he purred and curled up in the back of my head. I noticed Jillian and the warriors looked shocked. Atlas may not lose his temper often, but when he did, it was never easy to get him back in control. I'm sorry, she said. I told him to go help Maya. I don't have a lot of stuff to pack. I sighed. I would prefer that you have a guard with you at all times while not in our territory. It is not safe otherwise, I said with a pointed look. She blushed. Zach, please load Maya's belongings into the car. We are leaving now. I don't want to be here any longer than we need to. I will help the Luna. I saw her turn around to look at Zach, who smiled at her. A small growl escaped my chest. So, where is your room? I smiled at her. Then I frowned, confused as I noticed she paled quickly, followed by another blush. Goddess, she was beautiful. Why don't you wait here? I was almost done, she said, turning and trying to go into a little door that was behind us. I followed her and put my foot in the door as she tried to close it behind her. Celeste? I asked. I couldn't help but feel hurt that she didn't want me in her room. I saw her blush deepen and she sighed and opened the door as she went to retrieve a bag on the ground. I took in the toilet, the broken sink, and then the futon below the sink. I could feel Atlas' rage as he understood what this was before I did. This is where you sleep, I growled lowly. The blush on her face deepened as she grabbed an old brush and toothbrush from the sink and added them to an almost empty trash bag. I looked at her again, noticing that she was just standing there uncomfortably, waiting for me to move from the door. Is this all you're taking? I asked, holding out my hand to take her bag. This is all I own, she said, not looking at me. I took the bag from her and looked inside. There seemed to be about 3 or 4 outfit changes, none of them seemed to be in decent shape. I could see neatly patched parts from other garments. My heart broke for her. When I looked up, I was surprised to see that while her face still had a blush of embarrassment in it, her head was raised as if daring me to comment on any of it. I looked around the tiny half-bath again. While not suitable for a person to live with, it was tidy and you could see she took care of what little she had in it. I sighed, dropped the bag and pulled her into a hug. She froze at first, then slowly relaxed and returned the hug. We've got plenty of stuff at home. You can leave this here. Maybe some of the other girls can use it, I said. I only felt her nod. I sighed, let's get out this place before I kill the entire pack. I've been trying. You're kind of taking up the whole door." She gave a slight giggle. I laughed and let her go, hanging on to her hand. "Are we ready?" I mind-linked Jillian yet. "We've got Maya and the guards in the car." I slipped some cash to one of the girls and told her to find a way to buy food for the other Omegas. I also grabbed our stuff. It seems the recipes for the desserts were on the nightstand as well, so I grabbed them. "I figured you still owe them to Alpharet since we'll have the master with us." He laughed in my head. "Christ, that feels like a lifetime ago." "I'd forgotten," I said as looked down to the small hand holding my own as I made our way out the door. "Yeah, I noticed the place they kept her. This is going to be a long road for her. I hope you're ready to be patient. I don't think it's going to be an easy transition. She will need a lot of help," he said. He was my best friend for a reason. Yet I know there's something we're missing about her past too. She's been lying about her age all this time. I am not sure how that's possible or why. She also wouldn't tell me what her real last name is. "What do you mean, her real last name?" While we were alone at the hospital, she said that she would be 20 in Dis, not 17 in March like the Luna said. She also said her name was really Celeste, but did not give me her last name. She looked so scared to talk about it. I thought she'd try to make a run for it at one point. "I have a feeling there's more to her than meets the eye. Whatever it is, the pack is behind you and the Luna," he said. "Thank you, my friend." "Don't thank me." The way that woman had Atlas practically purring after he lost control, "I'm sure the entire pack will be jumping with joy." He laughed at me. "I'll be sure to pay this back to you when you find your mate." I rolled my eyes and I heard him laughing behind me. "Duly noted." He teased and winked at a confused Celeste. We got in the car and after she took a moment to look back at the pack house we sped off. We made a quick stop to grab her and Maya a new pair of clothes, then prepared for the long ride home. She settled in the groove of my arm and yawned, cuddling close. I was surprised and more than elated at her actions. Hope rose in me that I would get her to trust me if I didn't this up too badly. I just hoped I remembered enough of my mother's teachings on how to treat a mate. I spent most of the drive to my pack answering texts. Celeste slept the whole way there. I only woke her up when we got close to the pack house. I wanted her to see the territory. I knew I'd made the right decision as her eyes went wide with wonder. The entrance to my lands was separated by the Gila River outside of Phoenix. The only way in was to cross a giant bridge that was gated and guarded. There was a massive scattered forest before opening up to our pack grounds. It was modern and rustic at the same time. It had a small town feel with modern amenities. I had made sure of it. I wanted her to be proud of her new pack and proud of the work I'd done. As we arrived at the pack house, I had to stifle a laugh as her eyes went as wide as dinner plates. The building was 6 stories high and about 2 football fields long. There were enough rooms to house about 75% of the unmated males, the ranked families and the staff and their families. "Mate likes our house." Atlas puffed his chest inside my head and I smiled, also beaming with pride at her reaction. "Welcome home," I whispered in her ear as I wrapped my hands around her waist lightly after we got out of the car. I didn't want to seem controlling or pushy, but I just had this constant need to touch her. She was tall enough so I didn't have to bend to reach her. I loved that about her. As she looked up, a couple of pups came running out screaming Luna. Luna, with papers in their hands. They were followed by a couple of the kitchen staff running after them. "Leave her be!" I heard Celeste laugh as she bent down to the kids as they gave her the pictures they seemed to have drawn for her. My heart was bursting with affection as I saw her smiling around the children. Celeste POV. I hadn't been outside of Blood Moon Pack in almost 12 years. I only vaguely remember my parents' lands. I felt a sense of wonder and appreciation at Markus waking me up to see the grounds. The beautiful river reminded me of the river behind my parents' grounds. There was a beautiful gate with CM in the front of a bridge that seemed to be the only way in. As we drove, I saw several wolves running on either side of the black SUV. Some would howl playfully at us. When we got to the pack house, I marveled at the size. It was easily 3 times bigger than the one at Bloom Moon. It stood 6 stories high. It was pristine white and beautifully landscaped grounds. As soon as Markus let me out of the car, he wrapped his arms lightly around my waist. I was still not used to physical contact, so I was tempted to freeze at the touch, but his scent and the warmth his touch provided had me practically melting against him. "Welcome home," he whispered, and my heart stirred in a way it hadn't in over a decade. Just then, I saw some pups running towards us yelling for me, followed by some frazzled parents behind them. I bent down to take the pictures they offered me. They were of a girl with a moon on top of her head. She appeared to be glowing. I assumed that it was supposed to be me, as they didn't yet know what I looked like. Their gift moved me and I was on the verge of tears. "Thank you. I love them so much," I said. "Come, let me give you ladies the tour," Markus said as Maya got out of the car that had just pulled up behind us. We walked through the double doors and I almost gasped. The foyer was giant. There were about 6 doors to either side. To the left you will find the common room, rec room, and formal dining room. The right has the kitchen, and the dining area. We walked through the right side door and this time I couldn't stop the gasp that came out of my mouth. The kitchen was twice the size of the one at Blood Moon Pack House. If I thought the kitchen equipment there was up to date, I was sorely mistaken. This kitchen had walls of cabinets, 2 refrigerators, 1 walk-in freezer, a giant pantry. There were 3 ranges with ovens, and 2 rotisserie ovens. I could see out the doors to a range of grills. I turned to look at a smiling Markus. "I take it you like the kitchen?" I grinned. "This is amazing. You could cook for an army in here," I said. He laughed. "Well, we feed about 300 people a day from here. Come, you can come play in here later and I'll introduce you to the cooking staff. Let's keep the tour going." I took his outstretched hand. The first floor is mostly common areas, offices, and where staff live. The second floor is for guests. Third floor is for high-ranking guests and extended family. Fourth and fifth floors are for my Gamma and Beta. The top floor is ours. I blushed at the word ours. "Do you not house warriors here?" I asked. "Warrior quarters are in the building next to us," he answered. "Alpha," I heard Maya hesitantly, "where will I stay?" she asked. "For now, you will stay on the 3rd floor. After you're settled into pack life here, we can discuss you moving somewhere else. I would imagine the transition will be easier for you both if you do it together," he said. I couldn't help it. I was so moved by his thoughtfulness that I hugged him. For someone that doesn't know how to receive physical contact, you sure don't seem to be able to keep your hands off him, Kara said smugly. Are you seriously complaining? I asked. No, I just like to tease you. This is the happiest I've ever seen you. You turn 19 next week, correct? Markus asked, and I wondered how he knew her age when Maya nodded. We will set you up with someone to help you through the change. We will take care of inducting you two into the pack this evening in my office. It's a simple act. You simply have to swear fealty, etc. You renounced the old pack? He asked both of us. We shook our heads. We don't know how to do that, I said. We will do that tonight as well. All will be well. Neither of you will be mistreated again. Thank you, Alpha, Maya said quietly. Zack will show you to your room. I will have someone put a few clothes in there for you. Tomorrow, you and Maya can go shopping for proper clothes, he explained. We don't have any money, I said, twisting my hands. We need jobs. You are my mate and future Luna of this pack. What is mine is yours. I have already texted my assistant to request a credit card for you and phones for both of you. Consider this shopping trip my gift to both of you as a welcome to the pack. Jillian has a sister. I will ask her if she's available to help you. Once you've settled in, we will talk about jobs and duties. Maya and I both widened our eyes. Come, Luna, I will show you to your room, he said, extending his hand towards me. We went to a door which turned out to be an elevator. I got progressively more nervous as it climbed the floors. He led me to the left of the floor. He stopped at a door and opened it. The room was huge, with a giant bed in the middle on the left side. It was decorated minimally with warm colors. There were 2 doors on the opposite side of the room. A third door on the right side near the windows. This is our room, he said. I looked at the big bed and blushed. He laughed and I frowned. I didn't see why it was funny. You are so cute when you blush, he said, leading me past the bed to the third door. He gently opened it and led me through it. I frowned again. We were in another bedroom. This one wasn't as big as the other one, but there was a comfortable bed with a door that I assumed led back out to the hall, and one that probably led to a closet. I had them put a connecting door between my room and yours. It was originally a second office, but I can work from the one on the first floor. He then turned me around and held me loosely to him. Emotion evident in his eyes. I don't know what you went through at that place. I am not sure what you've been hiding for so long. I am going to wait until you're ready to share yourself with me. We can take this as slow as you want, he said. I couldn't stop the flow of tears that surfaced. I was so moved at the sacrifice he was making. I may have never gotten an official education regarding mates or one at all, but I had heard enough stories about finding mates to know the full mating and marking usually takes place that same day. I wanted to trust him with everything, but I had lived with this lie for 11 years and I didn't know how to stop. I sobbed at the injustice of what had happened to me. I sobbed at the fact that he was cursed with a broken mate. He lifted me in his arms like a baby and sat on the bed, rubbing little circles on my back. I felt the warmth soothe my pain. I stayed with my arms around his strong sculpted waist and my head against his chest past the point of crying. He didn't say anything or force anything to happen. He just seemed content to hold me. Suddenly, I hiccuped, then hiccuped again. I felt his laugh bubbling up from his chest before I heard it. It was deep and wonderful. I laughed with him until there were tears coming out of his eyes. It's not that fun, hiccup, I tried to say and started laughing again. All of a sudden, he got up quicker than I thought possible, and I was being held in the air. Then he dropped me. I started to shriek when he suddenly caught me again. What was that for? I said. Do you still have the hiccups? He asked, still laughing. I waited and then grinned. No more hiccups. I saw his eyes glaze over for a moment. Dinner is ready, you ready? I nodded. Oh, one more thing. That's a closet for you to use, but as this was an office, we have to share a bathroom, he winked. Markus P.O.V. It was a lot for her to take in. I wanted to make it as easy as possible for her. I asked for Maya to remain in the pack house to give her something to ground her as everything around her changed. When I showed her to her bedroom, she just crumbled. She began sobbing and my heart was breaking with her. Atlas whined and howled inside my head and wanted to kill something. Anything, but he could sense that she needed us and let me stay in control. She cried for almost an hour and I let her. I could tell it was something she needed in order to begin her healing. Mental, emotional, and even physical. As I held her, I was painfully aware of how many bones I could feel. We needed to get some weight on her. Kelly, can you make sure whatever clothes the girls buy tomorrow are a size or two bigger than they currently are? They are both severely underfed. I mind-linked Jillian's sister. Underfed? What did they do to them over there, Alpha? She asked. I don't know, but I intend to find out. The other girls they had working at the pack house also appeared malnourished. I'll take care of them, Alpha. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate this. Anything for our Luna. Dinner is ready, Jillian interrupted. Your father texted the cooks earlier. Since they weren't expecting us until tomorrow. They are out on the town for dinner. Okay. Thanks, dinner is ready, you ready? I said and she nodded. Oh, one more thing. That's a closet for you to use, but as this was an office, we have to share a bathroom. I winked as I took her hand. I loved the blush that came to the surface and the giggle that came out of her mouth as I grinned at her. This beautiful fragile girl had us whipped already. I would do anything to keep hearing that delightful sound. As we went down the elevator, I explained what was about to happen. I have to present you to the staff and members present that you're my mate and future Luna. Don't worry, you don't have to take any responsibilities until you're ready to have the Luna ceremony. She nodded her big eyes at me. My father won't be in until after dinner. They didn't expect us today. When we arrived at the formal dining room, everyone stood and clapped as we made our way to the head of the table. I felt her nerves and felt her grip my hand tighter. I couldn't help but feel nothing but love for her and the friends sitting around the table. Thank you for that warm welcome. I am pleased to introduce my mate and your future Luna, Celeste. I purposely left out the surname. I knew Pierce wasn't her last name and I would prefer not to lie to my friends. Welcome Luna, they all said. I would also like to present Maya Kasara. She is a newcomer to our pack and I hope everyone treats her with the same warmth and respect as you've shown towards the Luna. She will be staying on the 3rd floor until further notice. Welcome, they said or nodded towards her. We sat and began dinner. I looked and noticed someone was missing. I thought Daniel was supposed to be back by now. I mind-linked Jillian. He reported in yesterday. He was delayed. He hasn't found what he needs yet, but feels like he's close. We need to pull him in soon. If he hasn't found anything in another week, he needs to come home and reassess. The pack needs their gamma. Yes, Alpha. I'll let him know. We ate dinner. The girls were eating fairly slowly and not very much. I shifted towards Celeste. Is everything okay? Do you and Maya not like the food? I asked. It's not as good as what you cook. No, the food is delicious. It's just she hesitated. You can tell me, love, I encouraged. She leaned even closer and I took a moment to inhale her scent. She whispered, we have never been allowed to eat with people. We're usually left to fend for ourselves with whatever leftovers we can find. I'm sure how to use all this silverware and I'm afraid to make a fool of myself. I tamped down the rage Atlas was feeling. Hoping it wasn't evident on my face, would you like to eat in the bedroom instead? I can have someone send up food? It's not normally this formal. The cook kind of went overboard because you were coming. I'm fine. No need to make a fuss. We aren't used to a lot of food anyway. We will get sick if we eat more than what we're eating. I sighed and nodded, making a mental note of asking Kelly to get them comfortable with eating with us. Next time we see that Alpha oaf, you will not deny me avenging the cruelty he's shown, mate. Atlas growled in my mind. As long as you let me get some hits in too, I agreed. Okay, we'll talk later, I said as I gently squeezed her hand. I turned and noticed a few smirks coming from my friends. They were all looking at our exchange. I rolled my eyes. After dinner, Jillian and I went into my office with Maya and Celeste. To break your connection to your pack permanently, you have to say full name, do hereby renounce my allegiance to the Blood Moon Pack, I said. When I saw Celeste's eyes go wide, I realized that it would require her to use her true name. She looked at Jillian and Maya. Guys, can you please go see if my father has arrived? Jillian looked at me funny. In person, I mind-linked him. Sure thing, Alpha. Come, Maya. We'll be back in a little bit. After they left, I went to the door myself. I looked at her and smiled, but I knew by the guilty look in her eyes that it didn't reach my eyes and the hurt I was feeling was showing. I'll be outside the door, love. Just say the words and let me know when you feel the link snap. I closed the door and walked away a few steps. I was tempted to listen, my hearing being a little better than most, but I couldn't break the small trust she had placed in me. It was precious and needed to be nurtured. Markus. I heard the door open and saw her angelic face looking for me. She smiled when she saw me waiting down the hall. It's done. I smiled and walked over to her. You can come back now, I linked to Jillian. I walked through the office door and she flew into my arms and kissed me. I quickly caught her, wrapping my arms around her waist and returned the kiss. Alpha howled at the taste of her lips. Ahem, I heard behind me and I wanted to growl at the interruption. I let Celeste down reluctantly. If blushing was a contest, we had a winner. I turned to Jillian, who was wagging his eyebrows at me. You have the worst timing, I mind-linked him. You're the one who said we could come back, he said. I smiled. I didn't know she would do that, rar, he taunted. Now that both tethers to the Blood Moon pack have been severed, it's time to officially join our pack. I will ask you if you accept and swear fealty to the pack, and when you accept, I will make a small cut on your hand. You should then be able to feel the new pack connection click into place. Son, we're home. I would like to meet my future daughter-in-law and Luna. My father mind-linked me after I felt Celeste and Maya join the pack link. We're in the study, I responded. Welcome to Crescent Moon Pack, I smiled at Maya. You guys have a busy day tomorrow, so I will let you get some rest. Love, someone wishes to meet you before we retire for the night, I said. She smiled nervously and nodded. I took her hand and pulled her next to me, hoping she felt the bond as strongly as I did and my presence would soothe her as much as hers did me. When I felt her relax, I smiled smugly in my mind. Atlas was wagging his tail. We heard a knock and then the door opened. My father stepped in and gasped, "Bella!" He whispered, letting the bottle of champagne drop and shatter to the floor. I felt Celeste stiffen and her eyes went wide. Celeste POV. Bella! He whispered. I stared in shock at the gentleman in front of me and heard the shattering of a bottle. Who is Bella? Beta Jillian asked. I started hyperventilating and felt the room spinning. How did this man know who my mother was? Was I in danger? I felt my eyes glow and then flip back and forth to black as Kara tried to take over. My flight or fight response forcing her forward even though she kept telling me to breathe. We're safe. Markus won't let anyone hurt us. He is our mate. He can protect us. Breathe, Celeste. Kara said gently, trying to push herself back into the recesses of my brain. Celeste? Are you okay? Talk to me. Dad, what did you do to her? I heard Markus growl. And then it hit me. This was his father. Of course he must have known my parents. He would have been Alpha at the same time as my parents. I felt tears flow from my eyes as I realized I must look like my mother. I could barely remember her, my mind having pushed those memories back in order for me to live. I suddenly felt my body jerk backwards and I could see my mother and father laughing and playing with a 4-year-old version of myself by a lake. My mother looked like me, but she had straight brown hair whereas I'd gotten my hair color, curls and eyes from my father. I felt myself jerk back to the present and an instant migraine hit me. I tried not to cry out. Celeste! What's wrong? Markus lifted me and placed me on the couch as he felt my pain. It was so overwhelming, but his scent was beginning to soothe it. I hung on to him for dear life. Who is Bella, Dad? He asked this time. Bella was my mother. I said, knowing that I had hit the point of no return. I worked hard to get my breathing under control. It was time to come clean about who I was. I gently extricated myself from Markus' arms and stood up, looking at everyone in the room. My name is Celeste Aurora della Rosa, daughter of Alpha Cori and Luna Bella della Rosa, the last leaders of the Sky Moon Pack, I said with a raised head, my eyes glowing. I then saw everyone's eyes go wide as they realized who I was. You're the spitting image of your mother. Except for the hair and eyes, Markus' dad said. His brows furrowed, his eyes watered. I thought you were dead. We looked for you among the bodies. We were told there were no survivors that day. How is this even possible? My father's gamma saved me. He warned me I would be in danger if anyone knew who I was. He gave me his last name. He tried to get help, I said, and then, because I needed the warmth of my mate, I sat back down on the couch and leaned against him. I felt his arms go around my waist before I continued. They killed all the mated werewolves in my pack and most of the male children that would remember the slaughter. I heard them looking for me, but as I was one of the few ranked pups at the time, not many knew who I was. I lied about my age and my name. The unmated women were taken back to Blood Moon Pack. The ones that didn't find a mate there, disappeared shortly after. The few of us pups that were taken before we had our wolves, were basically slaves until we came of age. We know once one of us reached the age, they were sent to be introduced to the unmated warriors on the next full moon. The ones that didn't find a mate were never seen again. I felt rage building in the room as I talked. Markus' fingers were almost digging into my hips as he tried to restrain himself. His eyes were black. That's illegal. How is he getting away with this? Markus' dad raged. His mate was silently crying while clutching him tightly. What is happening to these women? How has no one noticed this happening? Why has no one denounced these heinous behavior? I was about to begin talking when I felt Markus shift. I looked back up at him and he was looking at Beta Jillian. Tell them. He said calmly while stroking my back. We have been noticing some strange behavior from the Blood Moon Pack for a couple of months. We had suspicions that they have been trafficking she-wolves in the black market for a while now. We have been trying to figure out which alphas can be trusted and which can't, but we also need to find proof. It is the only way to bring other packs in as allies and to make sure the Council will take our accusations seriously. Daniel is due back next week. He's been following some people we think have been in charge of the exchange and of the trafficking. I tensed. Trafficking. On the black market, he nodded. Everything made sense then. The reason why we were treated so poorly, why they disappeared once they had their wolves. Why they never bothered to include us into the pack fully and why it only seemed to happen to the people of my pack. I felt Kara trying to push forward. I hadn't realized I had stood up. I felt my eyes glow but it felt different. I felt a pain starting to form behind my eyes. Everyone seemed to be moving away from me except Markus. Celeste? Are you okay? Sweetheart, can you look into my eyes? I looked at him then and the pressure I had been feeling behind my eyes disappeared. There was a small shriek and Jillian said, "Fire," in alarm. They grabbed the curtains behind me and stomped on them, putting the small fire out. I suddenly felt very tired. I could barely hold my head upright. Markus lifted me up bridal style. Let's continue this conversation in my room. The office is soundproof but we need to be 100% sure we're not being heard. He pushed past and went towards the elevator and turned around at the last second. Marie, could you please grab something to help with a migraine? I can feel she's got one. His dad's mate nodded and hurried off as we waited for the elevator to arrive. Got it, she came running back, just in time to hear the ding of the elevator. Are you okay? Markus asked. I am not sure. This is all, it's a lot, I answered honestly. I felt him kiss my head and I smiled. We will get through whatever together, he assured me. My friends, the other girls that were taken from my parents' pack. I knew they were disappearing but I had no idea this was happening. We need to go back for the ones that are left. We will. Do you know which of them turns of age next? We can focus our efforts on tracking her. We hadn't been able to figure out where he was getting the she-wolves. Yes, I think it was Ruby. Next month, since Maya was next, but she's safe. We will need you and Maya to work with a friend to get a composite of her together. Will you be able to do that? I think so. Markus. Yes. Do we have to tell Maya who I am? She will be mad I lied to her. She's the closest thing I've had to a friend. I don't think we should hide who you are anymore, love. You are safe. I won't let anything happen to you. I will let you tell her on your terms though. Will she think I failed her? I asked, voicing the one question that I asked myself when I was in the deepest holes of despair all these years. Fail her? How could you possibly fail her? I am the Alpha's daughter. They were still my people and I let the Alpha do this to them. Suddenly I heard a low growl coming from Markus. We were headed towards the rooms now but everyone stopped and looked our way. Will you all please wait out here for a moment? I need a moment with the Luna, he said as he opened the door to his room. Markus POV. When my father came into the room and confused Celeste with her mother, everything changed. For someone that had seemed so fragile to me, I felt her alpha aura snap into place when she said her full name. It was like her aura had also been pretending to be something she wasn't. Her attempt to protect herself went so deep. I believed her when she said she had been in danger. I was still young when it happened. My father had been outraged and demanded the council investigate. He's been friends with Alpha Corey and Luna Bella. I never met them myself, though I know their territory had only been a half-hour's drive to from the most southern end of our territory. I should take her there sometime if she wants to, I thought to myself as I rubbed her back in little circles as Jillian told them of our suspicions. Suddenly she stood up and I frowned at the loss of contact with my mate. I looked at her and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. You could feel her powerful aura blanket the room, but more importantly, her eyes were glowing with fire. Not the simple glow that wolves get, but actual fire seemed to replace her pupils. I heard everyone gasp and move back. I tried to use the bond to calm her, unsure if this would hurt her. Celeste? Are you okay? Sweetheart, can you look into my eyes? I pleaded. I saw her face move to look at me and suddenly the fire in her eyes was replaced with her striking blue eyes once more. I felt her exhaustion and migraine through the bond. Jillian alerted us to a fire and he and my father went to stomp on the curtains, which appeared to be the origin of the fire. I know Celeste had caused it somehow, but that was something to think about later. I lifted her in my arms. Atlas was happy to be touching our mate once again. The implications of what just happened was not lost on either one of us. The urge to protect was currently more fierce than our need to mate. Let's continue this conversation in my room. My private conversation with Celeste as we made our way to our room made me want to tear Alpha Jeff in small little pieces. Will she think I failed her? Fail her? How could you possibly fail her? I am the Alpha's daughter. They were still my people and I let the Alpha do this to them. I felt my family stop at the growl that escaped my chest. Will you all please wait out here for a moment? I need a moment with the Luna. I said and didn't wait for an answer. I knew they would obey. I laid her gently on my bed. Grabbed her face and gently made her meet my eyes. I could see the deep sorrow she felt for what was happening to her people and that she believed that she had failed. I realized then what Maya had said. She had taken the beating Sandra was going to give both of them. She took beatings from the ranked and Blood Moon in order to be able to feed the other girls. Despite being starved, beaten, and in hiding, my little Tulai had done everything within her limited power to protect her people. In that instant, I realized there was nothing I wouldn't do for her. You were 8 when your parents were killed. Then you were starved, beaten, and practically enslaved. You put yourself in danger over and over to protect them. You haven't failed anyone. You are one of the bravest warriors I have ever met and I could not be more proud to call you my mate, I said, showing her with my eyes all the words I was not able to say out loud just yet. I saw her eyes scanning my face in amazement and gratitude. Suddenly she hugged me. Markus. I heard her say. Yes, my little Tulai. I felt her nose scrunch against my chest as she wondered what it meant, but I smiled, knowing that was a conversation for later. What's your dad's name? She asked, surprising me. What? You never introduced us, she said, blushing. I laughed. Come on in, I mind-linked to my father. The door opened and I heard my father, his mate, and my beta shuffle in. I went to the other side of the bed and pulled Celeste against my chest, so we were both facing the crowd. Dad, Marie, allow me to properly introduce you. This is Celeste Della Rosa, my mate. I grinned at them like a child. Celeste, this is Alexander Salonen, the previous Alpha, and his mate, Marie. I felt Celeste trying to get off the bed but I held her firmly against my chest. I could still feel the exhaustion and headache emanating from her. It's very nice to meet you, she said shyly. It's rude not to shake hands, she chided me. I chuckled through our mind link, pleased that she had initiated the dialogue this time. I think he will be all right, she gave me a light growl with no heat behind it. I am very happy to meet you, Celeste. My boy had lost all faith in the mate bond. Happy to see you've changed his mind so quickly. I could see Celeste blush adorably. We need to talk about how we're going to handle this new information, I said, bringing us back to business. The Luna ceremony will need to be done using her full name, so that's the deadline to make some decisions. We need to contact the council with this new information, but the word of 2 women against someone like Alpha Jeff won't be enough. We still need to get proof. I am not sure why Alpha Jeff was looking for her after he killed her parents, but we will have to be prepared for a possible act of aggression after he finds out she was under his nose all this time. He doesn't seem the type to let go quick. I know why, my father spoke up then and all heads snapped to him. He sighed and sat on the chair near the living room. Marie was next to him a second later and he seemed to relax a little when she put her hand on his shoulder. I was amazed that I had never noticed the effect the bond had on him. Maybe if I had, I would have looked for Celeste sooner. Maybe I could have saved her from the suffering she endured a lot sooner. When Alpha Jeff challenged Corey for Bella, there had been rumors that he'd barely even met her before that. The challenge was a cover for something else. He looked at Celeste. There was a rumor that your mother was from an ancient line of alpha wolves. A line that still retained gifts from the moon goddess Selene. And that every heir from that bloodline would retain these gifts. He frowned and I saw him gulped back emotion. When he challenged your father and won, he did it with the intention to take your mother as his chosen mate, produce an heir and provide him with more power. When your mother chose to take her life, his next best choice was to take the current heir, but you disappeared. Everyone concluded that you had been killed in the chaos. I knew the rumor to be true but I had no proof. I could do nothing. How did you know my parents? She asked, wiping a tear away from her eyes. I gave her a gentle squeeze, letting her know I was here. Atlas and I were both pondering what my father had said. If the rumors were true, it meant that Celeste was a target. One that I would protect until my last breath. Your father was a good friend of mine. Our parents were both alphas and we shared the same upbringing. When your father met your mother, he was instantly in love with her. Duties kept our friendship after we took over as alphas to mostly phone calls, but when you were born, I was there. I had been on my way back from a meeting at another pack when your father called me. He was so excited and nervous. He was rambling like a little boy. I went there to support him and I witnessed the power your mother had get out of control during the delivery pains. She could conjure the winds. I thought the pack hospital would get swept away by the tornado. Almost my pants, he laughed, that's when he told me about her bloodline. I was sworn to secrecy. I never quite managed to come see them as much as I hoped. It was mostly quick 10 stops on the way home from somewhere. When I found out what happened, he closed his eyes. One tear fell from his eyes. I am sorry, my dear, I should have looked for you harder. It's not your fault. We were held in the dungeons for 2 months after it happened. I never knew why, but now I see that he hid us so they thought there were no survivors, she said. So what do we do now? Jillian asked. We protect her. We will schedule the Luna ceremony for 2 months from now. That should give us enough time to find some proof to bring him down. We find proof of what he did to her parents. No, our priority is the girls still at the Blood Moon Pack, Celeste pleaded. I've seen the last of my people disappear one by one over the last 12 years. We need to save them first. What happened to my parents can't be changed. We need to save my friends. I agree. I'll contact Daniel and ask him to come back. We will need a new strategy, Jillian said. Then he smiled at my mate and I almost growled. You will make an excellent Luna, he bowed his head and added via mind link, down Kyucho. I have no intention of getting between you. She is definitely your perfect mate. Just as protective of her people as you. I rolled my eyes, but agreed with him. I think that's enough for now. It's been a long day, I said as I saw Celeste blink to keep herself awake. I don't think I have to remind anyone here the importance of keeping her fire ability a secret. I said, knowing the answer but also needing to say it anyways. Of course, son. There's one more thing, Celeste said. Maybe tomorrow. I said. No, I've kept this a secret all my life. I don't want to have any more, she said. What is it, my dear? My dad said. I have never had the power of fire before today, but I've had premonitions since I was a little girl. I think it's broken, it only gives me premonitions a couple of seconds before they happen, and they give me migraines. I think it broke after my mother passed. I saw her death seconds before she acted, and it was the first time I had a migraine after. We will keep this a secret as well, but if you don't mind? I might know someone that may help you control it, or at least help you have them without the migraines. He looked at me with the question. I nodded, probably a good idea, but she will need to be vetted first. Of course, son, I'll forward the details to Jillian so he can begin the vetting process. Good night. Celeste, it has been a pleasure to meet you. Alpha, Luna, good night. Jillian said and left the room. Celeste P.O.V. Jillian and Markus' parents left, and then there was just me and Markus. Alone. He was still holding me against his chest. I didn't know what was supposed to happen now. I had a room, but neither of us moved. I don't know that either of us wanted to. I couldn't stop the yawn that left my mouth. I felt Markus chuckle and move from behind me. Long day. In a good way, I said. I got up and winced, feeling a pain in my ribs now that his sparks weren't distracting my body. All the bruises seemed to scream at me suddenly, reminding me they were still there. I'm sorry, I almost forgot you were still healing. Come. Let me get the shower started for you and so you can get a good night's rest. I nodded, then paused. Something wrong? He asked. I wrung my hands. I don't have any clothes. We left mine at the pack house. His eyes widened. Right. Jillian's sister will take you shopping tomorrow. Until then, he went to a set of drawers. How about you put these on? I looked at the shirt and shorts that he gave to me and I giggled. Those shorts won't fit me. He looked down at his pair of shorts. Went back to the drawers and pulled a few out, cursing under his breath. Aha! He said triumphantly as he pulled a pair that had drawstrings. He turned back to me and wagged his eyebrows at me. I giggled more and grabbed the clothes from him, following him to the bathroom. I almost dropped the clothes as I took in the bathroom. It was the most luxurious bathroom I had ever seen. There was warm sand-colored marble everywhere, making it feel inviting and cozy. There was a glass shower all on one side of the room that looked like it could fit 5 people. There were shower jets on the top and on the walls. There was a bench to sit along the wall of the shower. The wall closest to the bedroom had the floor raised with 3 giant steps leading to it. A giant bathtub was sunk into the raised flooring and there was an elegant fireplace in the raised platform. There were 2 sinks and a giant mirror to my right. It had a recessed roof and lighting. I heard the showers going. I looked at multiple shower heads running. The shower area filling with steam quickly. I think these will help the pain. Just let me know if you need anything, Markus said, heading towards the bathroom door. He turned at the last minute with a mischievous grin. Unless you want me to join you. He wagged his eyebrows at me. He laughed at my squeak. I'm just messing with you, he said as he moved to close the door behind him. Before it clicked closed, he opened it fast and wagged his eyebrows once more. making me laugh and roll my eyes, before he closed the door again. I turned to look at the shower and scrunched my nose. The little pad that controlled it looked complicated. I took my clothes off, but before I went into the shower, I turned my attention to the mirror. I sighed as I took myself in. It'd been a few years since I'd gotten a chance to really look at myself. Even ignoring the bruising and raised lines from the attack, my body was a testament to the abuse I had suffered at the hands of the pack. My olive skin seemed washed out, pale and sad from lack of sun. My ribs were protruding, my stomach concaving inwards from the lack of food. Every bone in my body could easily be seen. My eyes, the only part of me that seemed to hold life. I had old scarring faintly visible along my back and my legs. Markus seemed to look at me with so much love and devotion already that it scared me. Looking at the mirror, I couldn't see why. In a world where most werewolves looked like they belonged in a supermodel magazine, I did not. Markus sees more than what we look like. He knows we've suffered. He sees the strength in us. The real beauty, Kara commented quietly. I knew how much it hurt her when I had my pity parties. When she knew I believed we weren't enough. He can have anyone, when he sees us like this. I couldn't finish the sentence. He was made for us and we were made for him. The moon goddess doesn't make mistakes. She insisted. I sighed and made a mental note to ask Maya to take some pictures with the new phone Markus told us he would give us. Maybe they would be useful in the investigation. There was no point in wallowing in a pity party. I had to trust that Kara was right and the moon goddess hadn't made a mistake. I would also do everything in my power to prove to Markus that I would not be a burden, that we were worthy of being by his side. I entered the shower. I put my hand out to check the temperature. I walked under the heated sprays and almost moaned as my abused body felt the heat of the water. After a solid 10 minutes of letting the water hit my body, I cleaned myself up and looked at the little panel. I had no idea how to shut off the water stream. I dried myself and put on the ridiculously large clothes he gave me. They smelled like him though, and that had Kara purring. I went to the door and my jaw dropped. Markus' back was to me, bent over a laptop, in boxers. I had a full view of a broad back, tapered waist, hard muscles and round bottom. His legs looked like tree trunks, all muscle. He suddenly stood up and turned to look at me. I blushed. I don't know how to turn off the shower, I blurted. He smiled, not a big deal, I'm about to shower myself. I nodded and headed to the door that led to my bedroom. Celeste. He called and I turned. He was right behind me and he gathered me into his arms. I could feel every muscle in his chest ripple under my hands. I was surprised at the random thought that passed through my head, wondering how his buttocks would feel under my hands. Thank you for trusting us today, he kissed my forehead and let me go. Good night, I said quickly, blushing at my own thoughts. I felt Kara purr inside my head. I was going to close the door as I saw him headed to the bathroom, but decided against it. I enjoyed smelling his scent of pistachios, figs, and earth before a storm coming through the door, so I left it slightly ajar. I looked at my bedroom in the dark. I had not slept in a bed in over 12 years. I crawled into bed and was out by the time my head hit the pillow. Markus P.O.V. I had a hard time sleeping alone in bed. I could smell Celeste just in the other room. She had left the door slightly ajar, and as much as I knew if I closed it I'd be able to fall asleep, I couldn't bring myself to close that connection with her. I knew it was a sign of trust. I looked up at the ceiling thinking of everything that had happened in the last week and everything that was coming. You worry too much. We will protect mate. We will not fail. Atlas grumbled sleepily. If only I had your confidence. If what Dad said was true, there's bound to be more than just Alpha Jeff looking to get their hands on our mate. The moon goddess Selene doesn't make mistakes. If we were chosen to be her mate, it means we're able to protect her. Atlas puffed his chest out. How can we protect her from danger we aren't aware of? Well, we can always lock her up in a tower, Atlas teased. I was surprised at his personality change in the last week. I don't know what you're talking about. I have always had a clever sense of humor, Atlas countered. Telling me how you want to dismember our enemies is not what I'd call a clever sense of humor, I countered. That's because you have zero sense of humor. He confirmed, and I rolled my eyes. Mate is supposed to change us. She is our other half. The ones that make us better, Atlas schooled me. You never seemed interested in this mate stuff before. You were not ready for mate before. After what happened, I knew the only way to change your mind was to meet her. He confessed. So what do we do, buddy? We protect mate. We will know when the time is right what we need to do. The moon goddess and our Tulai will guide us. Trust in the mate bond. It will not lead us wrong. Atlas assured me. I sighed. I hope you're right. I am always right, Atlas said as he curled up in a corner of my mind and fell asleep. I could hear Celeste's heartbeat steadily on the other side of the wall. I had memorized that beat during the 3 days she was unconscious in the hospital. I knew it as well as my own. Listening to its steady rhythm, sleep finally claimed me. I woke up the next morning to the phone ringing. What? I grumbled. Everyone's waiting for you downstairs for a meeting, Jillian's voice came through. Why couldn't you just mind link me? I grumbled, trying to wake up. I have been trying to for the last 2 hours. You never responded. 2 hours, what time is it? It's almost 11 am. I sat up. That's not possible, I growled. Oh, it's possible, look at your clock. You slept in. I looked at the clock. 10:45. That surprised me. I may not be a morning person, but I never slept past 7 am. Who's all waiting? I said, getting up and heading to the closet to change. Your father, Daniel, is on conference call as well as Alpha Ret. Okay. I will be right there. Give me 5 minutes. Ret wants to talk to Celeste, Jillian said carefully. I suppressed the growl rising in my chest. Make it 10 then, I have to wake her up. Can you have Kelly bring some clothes that might fit her? They should be outside your door. She grabbed a couple for Maya already. Thanks, we'll be right down. Can you have someone bring a couple of bagels from the kitchen to the office? I need to get some meat on her bones, I said as I grabbed the clothes outside her door. You got it. I went through the door and inhaled her intoxicating scent. She was in the middle of the bed, hugging a pillow. The covers were on the floor. I dropped to a squat next to the bed, trying to memorize every feature of face. I sighed, I would let her sleep, but something told me she would want to be in this meeting. Celeste. I caressed her face. She scrunched her nose but kept sleeping. You have to wake up, my little Tulai. There's people waiting for us. I saw her eyes flutter open. She smiled at me with sleepy eyes as she inhaled deeply. I smiled. Good morning, I said. Good morning. She blushed. She squinted at the windows and then got up in a flash. What time is it? Almost 11, I said, and her eyes went wide. I'm sorry. I never sleep that long. I'm usually up by 4 a.m. I don't know what happened. You were healing. That's understandable. She somewhat relaxed but still looked uncomfortable. What's wrong? I asked. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I usually cook and clean most of the day. Right now, you will rest, heal, and shop for some clothing so you don't have to wear my baggy stuff at night, I said, and she blushed. After, we can talk about how you want to approach your Luna role and life in the pack. She nodded. Here, you can wear this today. Kelly dropped them off. Now I'm afraid we have to hurry. We have to talk to some people. Okay, she said, then pouted. What's wrong? I can't change with you here, she blushed. I couldn't help the laugh that came out of me. Are you sure? I teased as I went to her door. I'll be right outside. Atlas grumbled something in my head, but I ignored it. We made our way down to the office. Jillian and Dad were waiting for me there. I could hear random noises on the speaker phone indicating people were on the other end. Good morning, I said to the room. Alpha, Luna, good morning. I heard Alpha read apologies for the delay, I said as I sat behind my desk. I pulled Celeste to my side. Delighting in the blush that spread through her face, though she didn't pull away. What's this meeting about, Markus? I heard Red ask. Your beta wouldn't say much, only that this had something to do with that thing we talked about a couple of months ago in the Luna. Did you get any proof? Daniel? Have you found anything new? I asked. No, Alpha. There seems to be something going on. All the traffickers appear to have been recalled back. I'm driving back home as we speak. Alpha, can I ask, what does this have to do with the future Luna? Gentlemen, as you know, I met my mate at the full moon celebration of Alpha Jeff's daughter getting her wolf. What I'm about to say is strictly confidential information. Telling anyone outside of this inner circle will put the Luna's life in danger. Alpha Markus, I need to be able to speak to my beta if we are to take part in whatever you're asking of my pack, Red said. If you trust him, I can concede that. Red. There was silence on the other end. Thank you, I trust him with my life, Red said. My mate is the only daughter of the late Alpha Corey and Luna Bella of the Sky Moon Pack, I said, and I felt the sharp intake of breath from both my Gamma and Alpha Red. Everyone in our world knew what had happened a decade ago. Moreover, through her, we have found out that the she-wolves that Alpha Jeff has been trafficking are the remaining unmated females from the Sky Moon Pack. Every time one gets their wolf and it is confirmed that they are not mated to a member of his pack, they disappear. I heard Daniel curse. That explains why they don't seem to care about who they sell these women to or why we haven't found any documentation on what pack they belong to. I couldn't understand why it appeared all of these women were off the grid but not rogues. Yes, if the conditions under which they've been living is any indication, it appears that he keeps them only long enough to make sure his pack can't benefit from the she-wolves and then he sold them to the highest bidder. These girls have spent 12 years half-starved, beaten, and with no medical intervention. They are essentially slaves. I felt Celeste shift uncomfortably next to me. Do we have any proof of any of this? Alpha said over the intercom. I sighed, nothing but the words of Maya and Celeste. Unfortunately. So we can't approach the council yet, Alpha muttered, as if speaking to himself. No, but we have something else. Celeste said that after each girl gets their wolf, they are introduced to the pack and then never seen again if they don't turn out to be mated to one of his warriors. The next girl to come of age is thankfully Maya, who is currently safe with us. The next is a girl named Ruby. Her birthday is next month. That's our deadline to plan. I'm not letting one more of these girls come to harm. I agree. Alpha, if I may ask. If these girls all disappeared after getting their wolf, how did the Luna manage not to get taken? Daniel asked. I looked at Celeste and nodded to her in encouragement. I lied about my age the night of my parents' murder. They thought I was 2 years younger than I was. I managed to hide my shift from everyone 8 months ago and Kara was kind enough to keep her emotions in check so we wouldn't be found out, I heard her say with a little bit of pride in her voice. That pride was more than called for. The first shift was usually painful, slow, and uncontrolled. Hearing a wolf controlling their emotions so shortly after the first shift was also fairly impressive. It took discipline and strong will. We are emotional creatures. You kept it secret for 8 months. Red sounded impressed. Okay. I'm only an hour and a half away so we should be able to brainstorm better in person. Have your assistant call mine and we can figure out when we have availability. One more question for the Luna if I may. Of course, Celeste said shyly. Can you forward the recipe to that chicken my way? I have been thinking about it all week. I want my cook to give it a shot. Celeste started giggling. I'll write it down for Markus to send to you. Thanks for calling Rhett. I still have that other email to send to you. I'll have my assistant contact your offices for that meeting. The sooner we get started, the better. Sounds good. We'll talk later. Danny, when will you be home? I asked once I heard the click from Alpha Rhett. I should get there in about 2 days, he said. The question in his voice asking what else was going on. We can't really discuss over the phone. Everything is fine for now. Just get home, brother, I said. Will do. I can't wait to meet your mate so I can give her my condolences on being mated to an asshat like yourself. Yeah, drive safe so I can pummel you when you get here, I laughed and hung up. I looked at the rest and they all excused themselves. Alpha, Maya, and I are ready to head out. Will the Luna be available soon? Kelly mind-linked. I'll send her out shortly. Make sure she eats Kelly. She hasn't had a chance, I said, looking at the untouched bagels on my desk. You got it. I'll make sure we hit the food court. Does she have money? I'll give her my credit card. Put whatever you need for her and Maya on there. Feel free to add some stuff for yourself. As a thank you. Thanks Alpha, she said. Zach, George, can you please escort the Luna, Maya, and Kelly to the mall? You're not to leave them alone. Protect them at all cost. Yes Alpha. They responded. I turned to look at Celeste. She was looking out the window now. What are you thinking, love? I asked. I was just looking at the lake. It's very pretty. I was trying to remember the last time my parents took me out to a picnic by the river. My site sent me there yesterday when we talked about Mom. It was the first time I'd remembered what she looked like, she said wistfully. You know their pack grounds is only half an hour from the edge of our territory. I could take you there at some point if you want. My father had the place cleaned and locked down. Her face lit up. Yes please, then she got a little sad. What's wrong my Tulai? Do you think there will be pictures there? I hugged her. I'm sure there are. Maybe Dad will tell you some stories too. You think so? I know so. All you have to do is ask, when you're ready. Now enough sadness. You have 2 girls waiting for you to go shopping. Here's my credit card. The code is 2832. Put anything you want on it. Don't hold back. You have a big closet that needs to be filled, she blushed and took the card. I would like a job. I don't want to be a burden, she said. You have a job. Luna is not an easy role. We will talk about the duties when you come back. I'll make a few calls to see who can help you with it. Okay. She said and gave me a quick awkward hug and ran out the door. As soon as she left, I left her absence like a black cloud hanging over my head. I sighed and picked up the phone. Celeste POV. I didn't like taking Markus' credit card. It felt like I was taking advantage of the mate bond, but I knew that I needed clothes. I would be meeting a lot of people in the next while and I couldn't wear the oversized jeans that he had given me. I sat in the back seat of the SUV. Zach and George were escorting us and I couldn't help but feel bad for them. They were warriors who had trained to fight battles, and here they were, supervising 3 girls on a shopping trip. Seals, I mean Luna. Maya said timidly. It's just Celeste, Maya, I said. I was still not comfortable being called Luna. I don't have any money, she said quietly. It's okay. Markus said we will use his card. I smiled quietly. She shifted, it doesn't seem right. I didn't earn this money, I sighed. I knew exactly how she felt, but instead of agreeing with her, I squeezed her hand gently. Maya, we've worked for people without getting anything in return since we were little. I am not all that comfortable taking his money either, but we deserve to have more than one change of clothes. We've never had anything new. So let's just enjoy today and maybe we can find a way to let him know how thankful we are later. Maybe you and I can make some dinners for the pack house at some point. Okay? Think of this as an I.O.U. She smiled brightly at that and nodded and continued to look out the window in fascination. Neither of us had been outside the pack house since we were little. I could tell Kelly had been listening but decided not to intervene. She probably didn't know our story and what we were talking about. All right girls, prepare for the shopping trip of your life. Kelly said as she wrapped one arm through each of ours and dragged us across the parking lot towards the mall. I was amazed at her energy. I was done with the thrill of shopping after 2 stores, but she just kept dragging us from one to the other. Zach and George had to take a couple of trips down to the SUV to drop off all the bags. I was getting more and more anxious at the amount of clothes we were buying. She kept blowing off my protests and adding more and more bags. She brought us into a fancy store and insisted on a few outfits for a Luna official business. I balked at the price tags, but she just kept handing the credit card to the sales ladies. It was the same with shoes and bags. The only things I was allowed to veto were shoe heels. We also hit a couple of makeup stores. By the time we hit the food court, I was on the verge of tears. I could barely eat my fries, though tasty they were. Kelly and Maya were chatting it up. "Luna, are you okay?" Kelly asked. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Kelly looked worried but continued to eat. I saw her texting on her phone every now and then. She took us to more stores here and there, but I couldn't concentrate anymore. At the last store, she gave me a dress to try and I just burst out crying, unable to stop myself. "What's wrong? Is there a pin still in the dress or something?" "Luna." I tried to explain, but nothing but blubbering came out. Kelly and Maya looked lost, and Zach and George had barged into the changing room prepared to fight, and then just looked fully uncomfortable once they realized the danger was a 19-year-old girl crying. It seemed like that was not something they had been trained to deal with. After about 10 minutes of trying to calm down, I felt sparks on my arms as someone knelt down to look me in the eyes. When I saw Markus' concerned face, I started sobbing all over again. He picked me up and sat down on the same spot with me in his lap. He rubbed my back, leaving sparks along his trail. "You ready to talk yet?" he mind-linked me. "I'm sorry," I cried. I tried to stop her. I sobbed as a new rack of sobs left my chest. "Stop what? Who hurt you?" he growled. "No one. I just wanted a couple of outfits, but she, I sobbed. "She what? Did she not let you buy them?" She wouldn't stop. I whined. "We've gone to 15 different stores and we spent so much money." "I'm sorry." I couldn't stop her. "I kept the receipts, I can return a lot of it later." "Please don't be mad." "How much do you think you spent today?" "It was $6,783. I kept a tally," I said as another rack of sobs claimed me. "I'm sorry." "Please don't be mad." Suddenly, I felt a rumble rising from his chest. It sounded like he was in pain. I looked up at him to see that he was trying to stifle laughter, and my face went into shock, stopping my cries instantly. He looked at me, and to my confused delight and the shock of everyone in the little changing room, he lost it. This tough but fair serious alpha started laughing like a hyena. I got up from his lap and he just doubled over, holding his stomach with one hand and my hand with the other, laughing uncontrollably. The snorts coming out of his mouth surprised even him but didn't stop the laughter. My confusion grew, but I couldn't help the smile that formed on my mouth as I saw this godlike man snorting. He had tears in his eyes when he was finally able to control himself, and he tried to push his dark brown hair over his face. I tried to pull my hand away, still confused. "Come here," he said and pulled me to his lap. "I told Kelly not to stop until you'd gotten at least 10 outfits for every occasion." You two have literally zero clothes. I don't want you to ever feel like you are lacking again. I want to see you happy, spoiled and eating full meals until you can't fit into the clothes you bought today and then go shopping all over again. $7,000 doesn't mean anything to me when it means you and Maya start having the life you were meant to have. My heart moved at his words and I did my best not to tear up again. Not to mention he's loaded. $7,000 is pennies, Kelly added behind me. Thank you, Kelly. He rolled his eyes and looked at me again. You are my mate. I want to give you everything you've been missing for the last 12 years. Please allow me to give you this. I hesitated but nodded and my stomach growled. He laughed again as I blushed. Come on, you guys can go shopping again another time. I think you probably had enough shopping for one day. Let's go eat. We technically already ate, but she was just playing with her food. Kelly ratted me out and I blushed more. How about we head home and you take her to eat? I'll make sure all her stuff gets left in her room. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Kelly. Maya, I hope you got all you needed. Yes, Alpha, thank you so much. Come on, my little Tulai, let's get some meat in your belly, he said, offering me his arm. Markus POV. Text, Alpha, something is wrong with Luna. She seems upset. She won't talk to me about it. I wasn't sure what was wrong. I couldn't mind Link so far away from me and her phone hadn't arrived yet. Let's go to mate. What if she's still injured? Atlas whined and we got in the car and drove. Text, Alpha. Please tell me you're close. The Luna just started crying and won't talk. I don't know what to do. Text, Amu. I practically ran the whole way to the store. My heart almost broke when I heard her sobs from outside the changing rooms. She wouldn't stop, she complained. We've gone to 15 different stores and we spent so much money. I'm sorry. I couldn't stop her. I kept a tally, I can return a lot of it later. Please don't be mad. How much do you think you spent today? I was realizing why she was upset. It was $6,783. I'm sorry. Please don't be mad. I tried. I really tried not to laugh, but it bubbled out of me, making me clutch my stomach. I had tears in my eyes when I was done laughing and Celeste was just looking at me with a slight smile but confusion still evident in her eyes. Her stomach growled and I laughed as I watched the beautiful blush that rose to her cheeks. I had her wrap her arm around mine after I dismissed everyone. I took her to the food court. Although I wanted to take her to a fancy restaurant, I remembered that she mentioned she never had take-out food. I led her to a fast food Chinese place, then settled us in a booth. The little noises she was making while eating the food were almost too much for me. I didn't trust myself to touch her right now. I just did my best to eat and not look creepy while I stared at her. You're barely eating, she said. I took a bite of my food and grinned at her. I'm sorry I had a breakdown. I thought you would be mad at how much money we were spending. I guess I didn't realize that money wasn't important to you. She frowned. But I asked, we've never had control over our lives, food, money, clothes. We've worked for nothing and gotten even less than that. I will take this gift, but I need to pull my weight. I need work, she said with a stubborn look on her face. You are the Luna not for 2 months. I can't not do anything for 2 months. I don't want to be a burden. If I am to be Luna, I need to be productive. Her determination surprised me, but Atlas was just puffing his chest proudly. What did you have in mind? I said, holding her hand. She looked surprised that I agreed so quickly. I want to talk about what my duties are as Luna. She looked down as if embarrassed about what she had to say next. I squeezed her hand encouragingly. I want a tutor. I learned basic math and reading skills before my parents died, but we weren't allowed to go to school once we got to the Blood Moon Pack. I don't want to be a useless Luna. I would like to have the schooling I need to be a competent Luna. My heart exploded with love. I pulled her to me and slammed my lips against her. She stiffened in surprise, but soon after returned it. This little ball of fire was my world and I would do everything in my power to show her this. I eventually stopped the kiss, needing to breathe. I placed my forehead against hers. She was breathing fast and I could smell her arousal through the muddled smells of the food court that now paled against hers. I brushed my lips against hers. She giggled, "Is that a yes?" I laughed, "That was yes. I will make the call and have someone teach you. Do you think Maya will want the same?" She smiled. I think so. We always shared the few books we could find discarded. You like to read? I asked, wanting to know more about her life even though I knew some of it would make want to go rip the Alpha's head off. She smiled and nodded as she ate more Chinese. I also want to cook again. I frowned. But you don't need to cook. But I like to. You liked my food, didn't you? She pouted. Yes, it was some of the best food I've ever had, but love, she pouted and I sighed. Once a week. I tried to compromise. 3, she said. 2? Please? You're going to be so busy once you start your tutoring and learning the Luna duties. She thought about it and then smiled and stuck her hand out to shake on it. I took her hand and pulled her forward, slamming her against my chest with a squeak. I gave her another kiss and she giggled. Let's go home, my little Tulai, I said, getting up. She scrunched her nose adorably but allowed me to pull her up. I wrapped my arm around her waist as we headed out of the mall. What does Tulai mean? She asked. I smirked and looked down at her. It is the Finnish word for fire. Markus P.O.V. It's been 2 days. Maya and Celeste were starting private tutoring lessons today after we found and vetted someone. I was still proud of her for wanting to get an education. We were still waiting for Dad's friend to be fully vetted. I wasn't comfortable with her knowing about her abilities, but there was no avoiding it. Celeste needed help only she could provide. Danny had arrived last night but I let him take a hot shower and good night's rest before I hounded him for any information that he had. Unfortunately, that wasn't much. These traffickers were very good. They dealt with the transactions digitally with encryption and made things hard to track. I was surprised that they seemed to have such a sophisticated setup. Alpha Jeff was an oaf. It was hard to reconcile this level of sophistication with the man. So, when do I get to meet the Luna? Or are you ashamed of me? Danny asked. I have always been ashamed of you, my friend. He laughed. She's busy at the moment. She will be done around 4 and then she's decided to cook you dinner. I smiled, thinking about my little ball of fire. She was slowly opening up a little more. I knew it was hard for her. After living with a lie and being discarded for 12 years, it was hard for her to realize that someone could care for her. But Atlas and I were determined to win over our mate. We had seen the interest in her eyes, we just had to nurture that interest and turn it into a raging fire that rivaled ours. We spent hours in my bed each night, playing 20 questions. I wanted to get to know her. I wanted her to know me. I knew I already loved her with every fiber of my being, but I needed to wait for her to catch up. Atlas had a hard time reining himself in while we made out in bed. Sometimes wanting to push forward and claim her, but I reminded him of what she'd been through and he would settle down somewhat. It didn't stop either of us from occasionally squeezing her. "A Luna cooking? Should I prepare my antacids?" Asked Jillian about her cooking. I smirked. I was looking forward to her cooking, though I still thought it would eventually get to be too much for her. Jillian's mother was also spending a few days a week helping her learn what her responsibilities of a Luna entailed. I was afraid it was going to be information overload soon. He's saying he's pre-requested seconds and is wearing his stretchy pants to dinner today. Is it that good? He asked. I nodded. Okay. What else do we need to talk about that you couldn't tell me over the phone? He asked. I leaned back in my chair. It's about Celeste and who she is. She's the daughter of those people from the Sky Moon that got killed, right? You already told me that. Did I mention her bloodline? He frowned. No, what about it? I gave him all of the information my father had given us. At the end of the explanation he whistled. You got one interesting mate. Tell me about it. She's perfect. It sounds like the mighty I don't need a mate has been turned into man putty. When you meet her, it will make sense, I assured him. When you hear what she's been through, you will admire her. And when you see what kind of person she is, you will vow to protect your Luna just like I have. Forget the man putty, you've fallen hard, brother. I smiled. Just waiting for her to catch up in that department. She's like this little ball of fire that isn't used to someone caring for her. Well, we both know I don't know about women, but whatever you need. I will tell her you're a great alpha and a romantic. You know, lie, I laughed. So what's the plan? He said, getting back to business. That's what made him such a good gamma, he could always be counted on to stay on target despite his carefree personality. I sighed, I am not sure yet. We have a couple of weeks before we have to decide. Alpha Red is coming by later on. I smirked. He decided to change his meeting to tonight when he heard Celeste was cooking. Well, now I'm curious. You won't be disappointed. I'm going to go see my grandparents. Let me know when dinner is ready. How's it going, Tulai? SHHH. I'm trying to learn, she said and cut the mind link. I laughed. Maid is dedicated. She will be an excellent Luna. Atlas purred with pride for what seemed like the 50th time in the last week. Danny thought I was man putty, he hadn't seen Atlas talk about our mate. Still, I missed her already, so I casually passed by the makeshift classroom we had made from one of the common rooms in the pack house for her and Maya. I looked at her from the little window in the door. I couldn't smell her from here, so I knew that I wasn't going to distract her. Still, I was surprised when she looked out the little window and met my eyes. I grinned and waved. Sorry, I will let you study. She just smiled and turned back to her tutor. I wandered back to my office and started doing some work. My assistant came in and gave me the things I'd ordered for Celeste. I can't wait to give it to her. 2 hours later, I smelled Celeste on the other side of the door. I heard a light knock. Come in. I'm done with my lesson. I'll be starting dinner in an hour, but I just wanted to spend some time with you, she said, blushing. Come here, I said, swiveling around on my chair so that she could sit on my lap. I inhaled her scent as she wrapped her arms around me. I loved the fact that she was getting more comfortable with my touch. Are you enjoying all the lessons you're having? Yes, there's a lot more to being a Luna than I knew. Luna Luisa never seemed to do any of them, and Mrs. Quinn is very patient. She's teaching me how to use her computer so I can access all the stuff. About that. I got something for you. I opened the desk drawer and pulled out the phone and the laptop. The laptop is to help with your assignment and your duties. The phone is so we can communicate if you're ever off the pack grounds. She blushed and kissed me lightly on the lips. Unable to stop myself, I pulled her closer and deepened the kiss. I gently requested access to her mouth. We should stop before I take you right here in my office. I hated saying those words, but I knew she wasn't ready. She pulled back and hugged me tightly, putting her head on my chest, and she sighed. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that, she said. I pulled her head upward to look back down at her. I love every time you touch me. Please don't stop. She smiled and gave me a light kiss. I'm going to go change and get started on dinner. I'm baking some tarts for dessert. Come taste test the custard if you have time. Celeste POV. I went upstairs to take a cold shower. Our makeout sessions had been getting out of control. I knew who was to blame too. I don't know what would come over me. I wish I could even blame Kara, but while she encouraged me, she let me take full control of the situation. I didn't know what I was doing, but every time Markus touched me, my body would have a mind of its own. I felt bad for Markus. He had more restraint than I did, even though I was the one that wasn't ready to push past those last steps of the mate bond. I felt like I was torturing him. I knew he needed release, but I was never able to provide it. He loves us. He will wait until you're ready. Kara, how do I know we're ready? I hadn't even kissed a person before last week. The mate bond will help you be ready. Just keep spending time with him. The stronger the bond, the better you will learn to read your body. When you're ready, you will know. Why does it have to be so complicated? Because a true bond is more than just X. He understands that, and that's what he wants. He's too good to us. He is what the moon goddess said we deserve. After the shower, I went downstairs to prepare dinner. The cook wasn't all that eager to let me take over her job, but she showed me where everything was and how the range worked. It was more modern than the one in the Blood Moon pack. Celeste, I'm sorry. I forgot to mention that Alpha Red and his beta are arriving in time for dinner. Will you have enough food for them? Markus mind-linked I will, but you're the one telling Jillian he might not get his second helping, I said, laughing. Remember me fondly then, he might kill me for this. Just remind him that I'll be cooking twice a week. Smart. Maybe that will spare my life, he laughed. He shut off the mind link and I went to the fridge to see if there was anything I could do to stretch the food I was planning to make. I always made extras, but these guys ate a lot. I asked Jillian what Daniel's favorite meal was. He has said it was a toss-up between fried chicken and chicken parmesan. I had chosen the latter tonight. Text, Celeste, I am not feeling myself. Can I be excused from dinner? I will just grab a snack later. Maya texted. She still couldn't link since she didn't have her wolf. Text, of course, but what's wrong? Do I need to call the pack doctor? Text, no. The health nurse had warned me that I might start feeling this way close to my birthday. That it's a sign that my wolf is waking up. Text, okay. I understand. I will have someone bring you a sandwich and some snacks. Let me know if you need me. Text, thank you, Luna. I prepared and asked a pretty Omega if she could take dinner to Maya. I was worried about her, but I also remembered how I felt the days before Kara arrived. I had felt sweaty, itchy, and with the constant nagging sensation that someone was watching me. I had been paranoid. Having no information of what happened when you got your wolf, I had thought I might be sick or being found out. I had tried to run away at night when the shift happened. It was painful and took forever. I thought I was dying. After it was done, Kara was there, in my mind, soothing my fears. Speaking of, when can we shift? I am dying to go for an actual run, Kara asked, stretching her paws in my mind. I will ask Markus. We don't know the area, so maybe he can run with us. Oh yes, I'm dying to meet Atlas. Kara purred. I heard the loud laugh of Alpha. I was in the middle of making the lemon tarts for tonight's dessert when I heard them coming in. Celeste, you look 100 times better than the last time I saw you. I must say, I have conflicted emotions when I heard you were cooking tonight. I gave him a confused look as I passed him a spoon filled with lemon custard that I had made for the tarts. I was appalled that Markus would make his Luna cook, but I also made it a point to be here because I have been dreaming about the food since that dinner during the full moon. I started giggling as a full blush rose to my cheeks. I heard a loud growl and turned to see Markus walking towards me. His eyes were pitch black. He grabbed me by the waist possessively and slammed me into his side. I looked up at him in confusion but heard Alpha laughing hard on the other side of the counter. I blushed and giggled again. Relax, friend, you can't blame me for enjoying a good meal. I assure you, I have no intention of doing anything but appreciate your mate's cooking skills. I did wonder why you had her cooking though. Markus went red and grumbled something incoherently. I couldn't help but appreciate the blush being on someone other than me for once. I am the one that asked to cook Alpha. I enjoy it. In that case, I look forward to another amazing meal. This custard is amazing, he said, finally eating the spoonful I had given him. How much longer do you need, love? Markus said, putting his head near my neck and inhaling deeply. He was still trying to calm Atlas, flecks of black still visible in his grey eyes. About 15 minutes. I have to assemble the tarts and change out of these dirty clothes, I said, turning my head and giving him a quick kiss. I'll have Danny start making his way here, he said, and they left the kitchen. I finished the tarts and took a quick shower. The little panel was still scary to me, but I had managed to learn how to turn on the basic shower functions. I went and grabbed a pretty midnight blue satin cowl neck with short sleeves and black slacks. I kept my hair dry in the shower, so I just needed to brush the curls out of my face, and then I added some simple makeup that Kelly had taught me. Mascara, some translucent eyeshadow that made my eyes shimmer, and lip gloss. I went down the stairs to dinner.